Um, you got another special guest. I love when you bring people on. Absolutely love it, Suzette. So you have a very special guest that you wanted us to talk to as we have this conversation, as we do our part to recognize Black Maternal Health Week. And folks, I want you to do the same thing as well. Make sure y'all check out all the latest news and information about why it's important for us to have Black Maternal Health Week and why it's important for us to have these conversations. And we are going to be joined by a very, very special guest, a sister that is doing her part to make sure that Black women are getting the necessary support and they are found safe during their time of pregnancy. And I want to bring my sister Suzette back on very quickly and to introduce our next guest. Suzette, this is a sister you brought to our attention. So I was like, let's talk about it. It's important. Who are we going to have joining us in a few moments?
Esther McCant. She's the founder of the Metro Mommy Agency here in South Florida. I know her in real life and I've watched her blossom. And for those who don't know, we've been celebrating Black Maternal Health Week this past week. And if you have never heard of it, it's kind of a new, in the last few years, maybe 3 or 4 years, creation. And I want her to talk a little bit about what she does. She is a doula. If you don't know what a doula is, she will explain how we have had, especially as Black women, a rich history of midwifery in this country and helping bring babies into this world. But unfortunately, that history has been kind of interrupted. So she, among many others, are working to create safer deliveries for Black mothers. We can put the statistic up, if you don't mind, about what we're looking at currently. Currently, Black women are 3 times more likely, according to the CDC, to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. Multiple factors contribute to these disparities, such as a variation in quality healthcare, underlying chronic conditions, structural racism, and implicit bias. Social determinants of health prevent many people from racial and ethnic minority groups from having fair opportunities for economic, physical, and emotional health. So we want to talk about what we can do to disrupt that pattern with
Yep.
Miss Esther McCant.
Esther, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. How you feeling this afternoon, sis? Oh, we got you on mute?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so grateful to be here on this call with you all today. Thank you to everyone who's here to listen and to learn. I'm happy to be here and thank you for having me.
Well, I thank Suzette for inviting you, and it sounds like you're doing some phenomenal work with Metro Mommy Agency, and that's the website, folks. And we want you to, check that out to get more information about how you can, if you find yourself pregnant, or if you have a friend or family member that is pregnant, to get some real, real good information about making sure that they stay safe and supported during this time. So what was my question, and I don't want to take up the conversation because this is all about you and Suzette and everything, but I do want to just throw this out there to start. What was the inspiration in creating the Metro Mommy Agency?
Oh, wow. So definitely my children. I'm actually a mom of 4. And
Okay, awesome.
yeah, and I had them all with midwives, all out of the hospital birth setting. And so while I can empathize with what we're experiencing here in America, I actually did not have the experience that Black women are having here. I had wonderful support from someone who listened to me. The midwife was very intentional about making sure I had childbirth education. And because I lived in Florida, we have the luxury of having access to 3 different types of midwives here. We have licensed midwives, certified professional midwives, and we also have certified nurse midwives here.
Mm.
And so I had a licensed midwife here in Florida, and I found myself in my 3rd pregnancy living outside of Florida in Alabama. And if you know anything about Alabama, it's a lot of bit racist. And
Wait, I like how you said that. Look at
and
Suzette's face.
yeah, I make faces. I do. I'm very expressive. And I found myself feeling like this is probably going to be a different scenario if I even dared to try, because at the time, this was back in like 2015 or so, 2014, I'm sorry. where it was actually illegal for me to go and seek care from a midwife in Alabama because I absolutely had to have an OB present or else that midwife could lose their license. So
Mm.
we had those types of regulations, and a lot of that still persists today. We have a wonderful Black midwife, Dr. Midwife, out in Alabama trying to build a birth center, and she's facing similar, racist, very discriminatory practices in Alabama. So, long story short, I knew enough about birthing in Florida to say, hey, I know I have options. I went to I got a degree. I know I can choose what I would like to have when it comes to my birth, and I don't have to just settle for less. So I did my research and I found a midwife in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I don't know if
Mm.
anybody's in Tennessee,
Hey.
but they have some freer laws there and more midwives there. And so I was able to access a midwife there who helped me to see after I gave birth. It was a wonderful 6-hour labor, water birth experience. She helped me to see at my 5-week appointment that despite the fact that I moved 3 times in the pregnancy, despite the fact that I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm just a mom, I'm a Black mom, and I have 3 kids. What am I doing with my life? She made me ask questions, right? Deeper questions to help me understand I have a purpose. And I knew my purpose was being on the playground, talking to these moms about birth, helping them navigate their own birth experience, helping them process birth trauma. And because of that, she said, while I was crying about what am I going to do with my life, she said, consider becoming a doula or a midwife or
Mm.
childbirth educator. And so I chose doula back in 2015. And since then I've been, running and in this work, deep in this birth work. And this is where I choose to stay. So
That
Fantastic.
is
That's fair.
awesome.
I'm proud of you, sis. Talk about what a doula is. We don't want to leave anyone out, and what you do to train them through your company, Metro Mommy Agency.
absolutely. So, a doula is a trained professional who can support you prenatally during your pregnancy and also support you during the birthing process. So, they're by your side or at your bedside, helping you get comfortable, relax, breathing techniques, helping you to focus on making clear decisions and ensuring that you have what we call informed consent before you decide on any interventions. And then we also provide what we call postpartum doula support in home, visiting you at home, checking in. How are you doing? Adjusting with your newborn, adjusting with breastfeeding and infant feeding, and just, how are you doing with your feelings, right? How are you really doing? We get to answer that question. And this is something traditionally we've known when we think about our culture and Black culture, period. We've always had a woman, supporting us when we are giving birth, right? That's kind of what our ancestors did. And so, in the same vein, we encourage doulas to be a part of this process, especially in a very medicalized system. And so, what I'm working on is to address these high infant mortality rates, maternal mortality rates, and the fact that these things keep persisting in our Black communities all across our nation and even across the globe, really. And the way that I do that is to say, let's make sure we have enough doulas on hand, on site, trained, ready to go, resilient, mentoring these doulas, training them, and partnering with other organizations to train them so that we can develop a stronger and larger workforce, right, to fill in the gaps. We don't see the changes in the healthcare system really improving. We've had a lot of shortages, whether it's OBs, obstetricians, right, or nurses that are like per diem or traveling nurses. We don't have stability in our healthcare system right now. And so we need to stop the bleeding. We need to make sure we have emotional support for these families, physical support, and somebody who's always going to be in their corner and have their best interests in mind.
Esther and Suzanne, we got to take another quick pause. But when we come forward, I want to know, I know this is a type of work that speaks to our natural, I would say, getting back to like the old school way of having children and just being pregnant. And I'm wondering, Esther, are you finding that a lot of Black women are now opting for this type of support in pregnancy instead of the traditional Western medicine? Are we seeing a sort of revolution in this. So I want to get your take on that. And crew, I wanted you to join us in the conversation as we check in, of course, with our very special guest, Esther McCant from Metro Mommy Agency, to talk about how she is doing the work of supporting and making sure that Black women who are going through pregnancy are safe and secure. Folks, post your comments in the chat and we'll continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks, and Suzette's very special guest, our sister Esther McCant from Metro Mommy Agency. She is the founder of the organization, the agency that is working to support Black women during their pregnancy and, more importantly, providing services, doula services, midwife services, to make sure that they are going through their pregnancy in the most healthy and safest way. And not trying to dominate the conversation here.
No, you are. This is for everybody. That's so great.
But Esther, I'm wondering, are you finding that there are more Black women, and you could also include other women from other places, other ethnicities, but are you finding that more Black women are starting to reconsider going through this process of having a doula, going through this process of having more natural births? Are we seeing the numbers working in that? Is there like a small revolution brewing when it comes to this?
Let's say I hope so, because right now we still have majority, 98% of births happening in hospital settings, only 2% happening outside of hospital settings. And what I have noticed is a focus on the hospitals wanting to incorporate certified nurse midwives into their practice and in their care models, which we know is ideal to reduce the risk of maternal mortality and infant mortality all over the globe. We know this. Right. There's other countries that have made midwifery care the standard. Right. And so what I have noticed in terms of the folks who are coming to me, and I like to say I've served families from every continent across the globe, except Antarctica, right? And every single family that comes across, they sometimes have a story to tell about a previous birth experience, previous trauma, previous discriminatory practices, racism, feeling not heard, feeling ignored. And so we oftentimes are hearing that story, and we are helping to guide them to make better choices about where they're going to choose to give birth. And they trust us.
Just jumping in here, talk about the history that Black women in the United States of America have when it comes to being at the bedside of those who were pregnant for decades, white, Black, otherwise, and how those sisters, how they got pushed to the sidelines because of the, let's call it the medical establishment, as being seen as not as worthy of the bedside as they once were. Talk about that history and how it changed.
Yeah. So, I have to always give credit where credit is due. I want to thank Jamara Amani, a local Black midwife here in South Florida, who really put game and let me know what it's really like in terms of the history. And what we know is that Black women have traditionally, in the role of midwives, supported the birth of not only Black families, but also white families. And until we had OBs come into the scene and hospital systems come into the scene, it was very normal to have a midwife support a birth at home, right? And so what we saw was that historically, because of these discriminatory practices, there was a lot of propaganda. There were a lot of campaigns that were done to just ensure sure that we could drag Black women, Black midwives, particularly in the dirt, right, in the past. And what would happen is they would say things like they were, not clean, they didn't practice good hygiene. And I remember reading about this also in college in biology about how the hygiene of, certain doctors, they wouldn't wash their hands when they would touch cadavers, right?
Mm.
And then they would go and touch other people. And so we saw issues there as well. And I think systemically, in certain states, right, certain states that are, we have our southern states and our southern state issues. Um, where they are heavily populated by Black people, right? And certain practices happen to exclude the care that they would ideally need, especially from Black midwives. And so we used to have thousands of midwives here and plenty of Black midwives here in Florida, but now we're down to a very minimal number. You're talking about, I want to say under 40.
Mm.
For sure. And we need more Black midwives, and so I just want to encourage those who are watching to, double back and circle back with Southern Birth Justice Network. They're doing some amazing work. They're also part of the Black Mamas Matter Alliance, and they do a lot of work. They're the ones who originated, of course, the Black Maternal Health Week 7 years ago, and why we can continue to build and organize and increase the awareness about Black maternal health here in our country.
That's
Esther,
interesting.
talk about how to get certified, because you certify people via Zoom, via real in-person classes, etc. Talk about what you're doing and the number of midwives you hope to put out there to the world.
Yeah, so midwifery is something that I do want to take a path for myself in the future. But I am currently a doula. I've been a doula for about 8 years. I'm a maternal health consultant. And so right now my role is to train and mentor. So I partner with Southern Birth Justice Network to train doulas. I'm hoping to partner really soon with March of Dimes and also Common Sense Childbirth Institute, also based in Florida, to ensure that we are training more doulas to be on the workforce. And so with mentorship, for me, what that looks like is really helping them fast track their careers. It does not have to be a situation where you get trained and then you never get certified, right? We want folks to be able to get certified. Not that certification means that you're a better doula or anything like that, but we know that certain payer structures require it, certain payer structures such as Medicaid, which will cover some doula support in certain states, may require certification. So we want to make sure that economically we're able to stand and sustain ourselves. And then also, I would just say, it's really important that community-based doulas are very important to the community in that they're often coming from the community that they're wishing to serve, which means that they're experiencing the same issues that the communities are experiencing. Housing issues, transportation, poor access to healthcare, poor access to education that will really, advance them. And so we want to make sure that we are in step with that in terms of providing wages that are livable. Not only here in Florida, but all across. And so we're grateful for changes in California where doulas can get paid $3,000 per client, and other states that are like following suit. And we're hoping states like Florida and those who have high, Black populations can do the same as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me just get a couple of comments from our culture crew here. Corinna, our sister Suzette, she said proper birthing methods aside from laying on your back would avoid women from needing an I can't even say this word. What is the SPCO? Man, I feel crazy. I can't say this word.
Corinna's comment. Hold on.
Yeah.
No.
How does the episiotomy.
Episiotomy.
There we go.
When they cut,
yes.
right?
Episiotomy. She said these doctors always want to cut us.
And talk about C-sections too. How the high level of C-section is often unnecessary.
Let me tell you why I really can't stand C-sections, right? So I'm Haitian. Shout out to all my Haitians out there. My mom was able to have 3 children, right? 2 of which were born in Haiti. right? And God bless Haiti, and prayers out for Haiti right now. And when she came to America, she had me, right, in 1986. I'm an 86er, cancer baby. And what happened was she ended up having a C-section, right? And when I think about why it was necessary, all I could think about is my birthday's on a holiday. I'm a 4th of July baby, right? And so sometimes, yes, people are, so lucky to have a vaginal birth on a holiday, but it always stuck with me. Why did she have to have that and land in certain morbidities as a result, right? Things that changed the quality of her life, things like hypertension and diabetes, right, as a result of some of these issues post a cesarean. But I want people to know it is a major abdominal surgery. You don't want to have one unless it's necessary. And when people elect to do so, you want to make sure that you're in a healthy place, that
Yeah.
you understand where your hemoglobin levels are, because there's going to be some expected blood loss. And we just want to make sure that folks understand on the other side of the really high cesarean rates, is the reality that there are many people who are still having vaginal births here successfully. And so, as a doula, my role is to make sure that we bring back the joy to the birthing experience. So, I use things like hypnobirthing, which is a technique, it's an international program that helps people have calmer, peaceful, relaxed birth experiences. People who are like sleeping through the contractions, smiling while they're birthing their babies, and breathing their babies downward. Those are ways in which we help to reduce the risk of a cesarean.
That's
And we
wonderful.
also know having a doula present helps as well, and also midwifery care as well.
That is dope.
I
I'm
wanna
learning, so that's why I'm
Yeah,
trying to stay quiet because I'm learning. But
and
that is dope.
Yeah.
I want to ask her to be positive for our last couple minutes here, because
Mm.
this also plays in the psyche of Black women, Faraji, as it's dangerous for me to have a baby. No, it's not. Now, our
Mm,
morbidity rates are
great point.
higher, but we
Great
still
point.
should be having kids if it's our choice. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the progress, Esther, and some of the positive outcomes that you've seen as a doula, so that people know there are ways that they can improve their healthcare outcomes by using services like yours or others when they decide to go through the birthing process.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you decide to go with a doula, we're going to make sure that in that initial consultation, we're listening for red flags. We're kind of already creating the plan that we might have should you decide to move forward. And then we are also asking you to incorporate your village, your support system. Who's going to be rubbing your back in the event that, we have to step into the bathroom for a second, right? Like, who's going to be rubbing your back at home before we arrive to support you at home in person, right? And so we want to make sure that you have everything you need in play. The other thing that helps tremendously is if you are in between pregnancies or not yet pregnant on this fertility journey, for example, very important to reach out to doulas, because we have different specializations. We have full spectrum doulas who cover the gamut, right? Who can help you with menstruation, help you with all kinds of things to get your body as healthy as possible so that you can maintain a healthy pregnancy as well. And then during the birthing process, we're there to support you emotionally, physically, able to help you to identify when you're getting off track, right? And keeping you calm and positive. I've had clients who, we're just jamming out, like we're jamming out to Beyonce, Renaissance. We're doing all kinds of things, right? I've had clients who've danced their babies out. I've had clients who've coughed their babies out, right? With little to no effort. And it really just takes a lot of strong mindset preparation and training. And that's really my specialty. I've done this 4 times, again, all natural on purpose. And that's the approach that I love to take is let's personalize this. Let's be intentional about all the decisions that we're making. Let's make sure we're clear on what just happened in this last prenatal visit with your provider so that we don't run into a situation that can hinder you from accomplishing your birth plan, right? And having the birth experience that you want.
Sounds so good. Very quickly, because we only got a few moments left, Esther. But what role do the men in the lives of Black women play in this process? Like whether it's the boyfriend, whether it's the brother, or whether it's the husband. If should how should what should we do? Should we
You got
be like
60
saying to the
seconds.
woman, hey, maybe you should get a midwife, maybe you should get a doula, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like what role do men play in this process?
Oh my gosh. Shout out to the man who booked me before their partners knew they needed to book me. Let's shout out to them,
Ooh, come
who
on.
identified that, yo, this is a little bit too much, right? I could see her. She's really stressed out. This birthing person is stressed out. You can help to reduce the stress by pulling us in sooner than later. Don't be last minute with it, right? Stop thinking about, oh my gosh, it's such an investment. It costs so much. If you could swing it, swing it. Stop overspending on the baby showers and the gender reveals and forgetting that the life is important, that you need an advocate in the room. Stop skipping out on going to the actual educational classes. Learn also yourself as well, right? Be included in the process and stop allowing the medical system and those providers to ignore you. Speak up when you're in that room, right? Listen, take notes, ask questions, right? And those are some of the ways that I know partners can be involved and have been involved in the process.
You're
You dropped the
amazing.
mic right there,
Thank
Esther.
you.
Dropping the mic. I love it.
Excellent work, sis. Thank you for all that you're doing to train up doulas. Remember, you could take classes by Zoom too. Shout out to you. What's the website so people can get in touch with you?
Yes, metromommyagency.com. It's there. You'll find all the information you need. Click book a doula, fill out that interest form, schedule a consult with me. You will talk to a real person, not AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming by. Thank you.
Esther, thank
Very
you so much
informative.
for the work you're doing. And I think Suzette and I will both say thank you for being so good for the culture. There's so much conversation that, I had so many other questions and based on what the crew was saying, but,
we can come back. She can come back.
Yeah, she could come back. She
Let's
could
do it
definitely
again.
come back and continue it. But
Thank
thank
you,
you so much,
Esther.
Esther.
Thank
We
you so much.
appreciate you. Absolutely. Man, oh man, that was very informative.
Yeah, she was on my YouTube. Y'all want more information? Go watch my show that I did with her last night.
Suzette,
and I'll put her on the radio. So let's go.
Listen to Suzette. Watch Suzette. Now,
Please.
But no, she was dope. She was dope. She was dope.
No, she knows what she's talking about, and I think it will definitely help Black women's mortality outcomes to have more practitioners like her. She was telling me about a whole network. There's a lot of people working on this, including Vice President Kamala Harris, who's very passionate about improving Black maternal outcomes. So it's stuff that we need to learn and share.
I like that. And Corinna brought up the fact that Vice President Harris has been really aggressive and very vigilant about this about this issue. But I'm so happy that she spoke about what men can do, because a lot of us are kind of like out of the loop, you know what I mean? And it's not because we don't care. It's simply because we don't know how to manage that, right? Because especially if you're dealing with a woman who has other women in the family, we assume that this is a thing that y'all know how to do best more than us. But we're finding that, and I think this is the important part, we're finding that more and more women are not supported. Whether they're not support, they might get a couple of, some advice from their mom, but their mother they learn from a different time.
The point is, even if you do have somebody, you don't have to do it on your own. The doula makes a big difference, because when you have a doctor and you're in the most vulnerable time of your life, you feel like you have to do what the doctor says. And there are other options often to you, but you don't feel strong enough necessarily to speak up. So just know this is an alternative and an addition that can help you, be heard when you're in you're on your birthing journey.
That is right there. Suzette, I appreciate you so much, sis. Thank you for bringing on our very special guest, Esther McCant. Folks, the name of the organization is Metro Mommy Agency. Take a look at the website, be a part of the conversation, and more importantly, learn something. Just learn
on
something
Insta,
about.
She's I Can Doula on Insta. I Can Doula on Insta.
There it is right there. All right, Suzette, thank you so much. We'll certainly check you out on your radio show and all that you're doing, but thank you for being so good for the culture.
Always a pleasure. Shout out to the Culture Crew. Great commentary today. Thank you guys for watching. Shout out to Team Replay. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank y'all so much for joining us and being a part of the conversation. Make sure you go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network and give something. If you got something to give and you can give it, please. It makes a world of difference for us. So thank all of you for being investors and stakeholders in the Black Star Network. Also, follow me on social media at The Real Faraji on Instagram, at Faraji on X, and I would love to connect with you to build our beloved community. Big shout out to each and every one of you in the Culture Crew on X platform, YouTube, and Facebook. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you later. Peace. Have a great evening.